Well, welcome everybody. This is the first episode of Westside Family Church's new podcast, Conversations. My name is Troy Kennedy. I'm one of the pastors here, and it is a great joy to get to come and share this first season on Advent with you. And I am surrounded by quite an illustrious table of dear, dear friends. And so starting over here on my left is the very talented, very cute, very intelligent, very wise Gwen Kennedy, who happens to be my wife. So,
yay.
Yeah. And she's going to bring a wonderful perspective to the conversation that we have here. And then over here is my good friend, Kathy Manning. Kathy is heads our women's ministry here at Westside Family Church, and she does an amazing job. And she is probably the most supreme multitasker that I know. I've never seen anybody juggle more plates than Kathy. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, that's pretty high praise. And Kathy really is, she's a disciple of Jesus, and she's just here to kind of offer her perspective as we get together. And then my very good friend, Leslie Chavrin, one of the smartest people that I know, and one of the most joyful people that I know. In particular, because we're talking about Advent as a season of joy, a season of anticipation of the coming of our Lord, of the first Advent. And so we're just going to frame things up and talk a little bit about what Advent is, about what this first week of Advent is, which is around the season of hope. And then we're just kind of let the conversation go wherever it goes, and we'll see.
Sounds great.
So first of all, the word Advent, right? It comes from a Latin word called Adventus. It just means the coming, or the coming of the one. And it's actually a word that got used by the Romans in anticipation of, like, say, the emperor was coming to town, or it was a celebration of one of their gods coming to town. And the Christians just kind of grabbed onto it and started to use it for the Advent Christos, the Advent of our Lord. For us, the Advent season is something as like unless you grew up Catholic or Lutheran or some kind of liturgical background, you don't really think of Advent as like the beginning of the year. But if you're one of those more liturgical streams of Christianity, Advent actually is the beginning of the church year, right? It's not January, right? And it's not September. It's not football season. It's not the academic calendar year. It's actually, Advent is the anticipation for 4 weeks of the birth of Jesus. And so as Christ followers, we celebrated this in a variety of ways all across the last 2,000 years. And but I thought it'd be interesting to kind of just talk about how maybe any of us have experienced Advent. I know in my house when I was growing up, it really, Christmas season was kind of stressful, honestly, in my place. So Advent, or the anticipation of Christmas, had more to do with like presents. And, I was the only kid in my whole side of the family, so it was pretty extravagant, right? I got all the presents, and that was like what it was for me, when I was growing up. But it was kind of a stressful season in our house and our family and everything. And even as an adult, it really took me a long time to get to the point where the Christmas season was something I looked forward to. Because being a worship guy, I was a worship pastor for many, many years. Actually, Christmas season was the highest stress part of the entire year for someone who did what I did. So between that and my sort of like being offended at the commercialization of, the season and all that, I was just kind of not that hot for Christmas. Right. So Advent wasn't a sacred time for me. It was more of a stressful time. And as I've gotten older and perhaps a little more mature, you can ask my wife, it's actually become a really beautiful and precious season for me. But I'm just curious. So Gwen, you grew up in a home that was not a Christ-following home.
Right.
And but you still celebrated Christmas. So how would you contrast maybe the way you experienced the anticipation of Christmas in your home growing up to like what it's like now?
It was, similar to yours, where we did celebrate Christmas. There were a lot of presents. My mom would shop all year long. And it was almost a odd guilt that she spent so much money, because there were 9 kids. And so it was a big deal, but there was so much stress and dysfunction in the household. I would gear up every year as Christmas would get closer. I would start feeling the stress of the household, of division between my parents. And ultimately, they separated for several years and then ended up in divorce. But it was like different homes, or is dad going to show up? It was super stressful. So I found out, as I was the youngest of the 9 kids, is I would be in this phlegmatic thing where I would try to make sure that everybody in the household was okay. And not having Christ, I mean, we were pretty strict atheists, and we were taught not to have anything to do with Jesus. So it was kind of an odd thing to be celebrating. I had friends that were Christians. They would be celebrating Christmas in a very different way than what we did in our household.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, so how would you articulate then the contrast? When you became a Christ follower, you were 26, 27? Yeah.
Yeah, close.
So how did that change for you?
I mean, the anticipation was just incredible, just to even think about, Jesus' birth and learning all the historicity of how his birth happened, how it was prophesied, there was so much more joy and anticipation and calm that happened in that as I became a Christian. And trying to get some family members to come along with that same journey with me was really a challenge. But I found new joy and new adventure in my world. Like I remember I lived in this little apartment right on the beach, on the Esplanade and Redondo Beach, and I would literally walk across the street and there was sand. It was just beautiful. And I remember the first year that I became a Christian, I went out and I got a tree, and I didn't have any ornaments, but I was like sticking like shoe horns and people's that meant something to me. I put pictures on the tree just to know, and then it was like this tree that would silhouette the beauty of the ocean behind it. I would watch the sunsets and just know that there was new life. I can remember my first Christmas really well after I became a Christian.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, what about you guys? Did you have any sort of a contrasting experience growing up to where now, as disciples of Jesus that you are, like the way you celebrate the season, what was that like? Did it shift any, or if it's just something you had a rich heritage you brought with you, or how did that work?
As I think about it, Troy, we did celebrate Advent when I was a kid. I hadn't really thought about that before. We would have the Advent wreath and the different on Sundays, and have an Advent reading where there's a candle. Several had different colors every Sunday. My dad was a pastor, and so that was one way we would celebrate Advent. And also my mom did this crazy thing, which I guess now I'm thinking out, I'm doing the same crazy kind of things. She would have a cardboard box, and she'd put hay in it on December 1st, and she would have, we had all these dolls that I'd cut the hair off of them when I was a kid. And one, she handmade something for Mary, one Joseph, and they would walk through our house, and you'd find them on every day until Christmas Day. There would be Jesus, which is another baby doll I cut the hair off. And so we celebrated Advent that way. And maybe I do some of those crazy things still. So, yes.
Wow, that's a beautiful anticipation, though.
It is.
So that's a heritage that you got from your parents. Yeah. What about you, Kathy? What was that like for you?
I do not remember celebrating Advent at all growing up. Like, my memories are like the 25th of Christmas.
Right.
And now, even as I think about what I want to nurture in this season for myself and then my children, I mean, just, I guess, anybody that enters our home, I think about it as a state of invitation. And so, like, I can think of previous years where I've kind of thought about enunciating the gold, the frankincense, and the myrrh. Maybe I could go find some, I could buy some, I could just keep it at the kitchen table. Other times I think I feel invited to enunciate just like the gifts that come after the 25th. I mean, I guess what I want to illustrate is it's just a very invitational season of, okay, Jesus Christ is coming. And what would that feel like? What does it invite me into in this season right now, right here I am with what this year's looked like? How do I want to come before, just Jesus in a way of like, I invite you. And honestly, I stumble through it. Like, I want to try really hard not to get focused on the quote unquote wrong things. And yet every time I come up against that posture, I'm just reminded that he's like, there's not a wrong way, Kathy. We're doing this together. We're walking out my homecoming, my birth, in the hay, and even as you put things away. And so I think this year specifically, I'm asking the question, like, how am I opening up my heart? Like, how am I asking God to show me what's my posture right now as I enter this specific season.
Yeah. I think one of the things that helped me get my heart around the season was, and it's like, that's why we're such a good marriage, because I have such nerdy approach to everything, and Gwen's very much on the ground, and she understands the heart of these things. But this sense that Advent it's anticipation of the coming King. Mm-hmm. And when I started to grasp onto that, I'm like, okay, I can get behind that.
Right.
And it can transcend all of the problems that I have with the way we treat it as a culture.
Right.
Even sometimes as a church, sometimes we either minimize it or we make it a little too sentimental or whatever, and just all of, my pet peeves, right? So,
right.
But when I started to think about it, this is an anticipation of the coming King. And when we celebrate this 4 weeks of anticipation, it is a precursor to his second advent.
Right.
Right. It's a rehearsal for the second advent of the King when Jesus comes in his glory, right? To make all things right. So the Christmas season started having a lot of weight for me.
Yeah. Right.
Right. And we start thinking about that beautiful, like you did in your home, and you still do, I'm sure, those daily, just kind of like we're building, it's building. And I got to tell you, I think, and this is my fault, not Gwen's, as our kids were growing up, I think I really missed the boat on the value of anticipation. And now, once again, that toothpaste is out of the tube. Sorry, boys. I'm not paying for counseling.
We will pay for counseling.
We'll talk about that offline. But because I was just kind of like, look, I don't want them to have this commercialized sense of the season. I don't want them to look to Christmas only forward to getting presents, right? Because that was kind of what it was for me. Mm-hmm. I want them to know that it's meaningful. But I think I pegged the meter in the wrong direction. Not the wrong direction, but too far in the opposite direction. That it was just almost like spraying it on them. And anything that they had that was in anticipation was probably more at church, maybe at school, right? Other places in their lives. But we really didn't, we didn't pile up a bunch of presents under the tree. Not really. Sometimes it would be a couple of days beforehand before we put presents under the tree. Right. So anyway, I think that was a mistake. And I think they're not irreparably damaged. They're going to be okay. Right. But I just think, as now, knowing what I know now, I would have been able to value that anticipation appropriately, right? With what we want to do then. Because Advent is, if it's an expectation, it's about hope, right? It's got to be about hope. It's not just hope for, a fun day on the 25th, which is great. Right. But it's the hope that we have in God with us, in Emmanuel, in the Prince of Peace, right? Mm-hmm. So the first Sunday of the Advent season is geared around when some churches, they have the candles, like the hope candle. The first week is about hope. And so talking about Advent, talking about expectation, talking about hope, those things are all highly intertwined. So I wanted to read a passage for you from Isaiah, and then we'll just kind of continue to open up the conversation and see what rings your bell. So this is Isaiah chapter 9. I'm going to read verses 2 through 7. This is from the NIV. This is a prophecy about the Advent, about the coming King. The people walking in darkness have seen a great light. On those living in the land of deep darkness, a light has dawned. You have enlarged the nation and increased their joy. They rejoice before you as people rejoice at the harvest, as warriors rejoice when dividing the plunder. For as in the days of Midian's defeat, you have shattered the yoke that burdens them, the bar across their shoulders, the rod of their oppressor. Every warrior's boot used in battle and every garment rolled in blood will be destined for burning, will be fuel for the fire. For unto us a child is born. To us a son is given. And the government will be on his shoulders. And he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Of the greatness of his government and peace there will be no end. And he will reign on David's throne and over his kingdom, establishing and upholding it with justice and righteousness from that time on and forever. The zeal of the Lord Almighty will accomplish this. Mm-hmm. And this is the anticipation of Israel for 400 years
It's crazy. Yeah.
of silence, where there was no more prophecy, there was only a sense of the son of David, right? The one of the ancestry of David is going to come and he's going to make things right. But he came in a way that nobody anticipated.
Right.
They wanted to see a military political leader come up and to release the boot of Rome off of the neck of Israel. And instead, you got the one who spoke reality into being to show up in the most vulnerable possible way, to submit himself to his own creation for the sake of saving his creation. And it's hard to imagine. I don't think we have enough gray matter to get our minds around that reality.
Right.
But Jesus shows up, God himself shows up so that we could know him.
Right.
And so he could do a work for us that we could never do for ourselves. And so as Israel was hoping, for all those years, over all that tyranny, all of that oppression for such a long time, their hope was that the son of David was going to come and set them free. Born in the city of David in Bethlehem. And he was going to show up, right? And Israel was going to rise to power. And instead, we had a very different kind of Savior. But that's the kind of Savior now you and I have hope in,
Right.
right?
Amen.
It was a different kind of king.
Thankfully.
Yeah, a transcendent kind of king. So when we talk about how people waited, they longed for, it's like in Romans chapter 8, it says all creation, groans as in childbirth for the sons of God to be revealed. When you think about anticipation, right, with that in mind, and we practice Advent during this Christmas, was there a time in your life when you really had to wait for something good? Like you wanted the thing, you were going for the thing, and for some reason, right, it got obfuscated, it got delayed, it got put off, and you had to trust in something more than your circumstances. What do you think?
The first thing that comes to mind for me is I went to school with a girl named Tara, and we became really close friends, and her nickname became Bear. And we stayed friends after college, and then she got diagnosed with cancer of the liver. And we prayed and we prayed and we prayed for deliverance, or what we experienced, we thought would be deliverance from the pain and the suffering and the cancer. And that was 5 years of just waiting and praying and seeking and trying to sense what the Lord had for her life and for her family and for everyone around. And I stood next to her in a worship service after she had decided no longer chemo. So it was 3 to 6 months left. And she closed her eyes and she had her hands out in worship, and she's saying to God, "You are never going to let me down. You're never going to let me down." And in a sense, I feel like in that moment, it was the reminder of, I have hope. This supersedes any verbal prayer I have prayed about what is to come. It was the collision of eternity and earth right there of, it's beyond what I can put into words or comprehend, but he will deliver.
And how does that shape your faith?
I really liked how humbly you were talking about how perhaps you failed a little bit with your boys. Because I think that's every parent and woman and man and friend's plight is we've been sold a dupe version of what hope is, because we think it means we ask tonight, we get it tomorrow. And the world is continuing to just make us think that that's being fulfilled with various reasons and evidences of that, whether it's in our workplace or in how we spend money or even our cell phones, right? We just have instant all the time. And in that moment, as I prayed that and heard Bear singing those lyrics, like I said, within my spirit, something was broken to be reminded that it's not conceptualized within the human brain when God provides and is present. And so now, to answer your question, I sit in so many settings where I'm praying for someone that's lost or gone astray or something that I'm confused about or I believe I need or think needs to come into fruition. And I'm reminded of those pain points and those gaps when it's far beyond what I can comprehend. And it orients me to something far beyond what I can put into words now.
So you discover a faith that is kind of transcends the circumstance,
Right.
right? It's like in Hebrews 11 when we talk about the faith of our of the patriarchs, of the people who come before us. It's very interesting that the author of Hebrews, he points out that none of them got the thing that they were waiting for,
Right.
but they waited patiently, right?
Right.
Romans chapter 8 says this, that the only reason you need hope is because you don't have the thing yet. Who hopes for what he already has?
Right.
Right. So we wait eagerly in anticipation of it.
Right.
And it sounds to me like you're talking about a point of reference that's bigger than your circumstances.
Right.
As the thing you're placing your faith in.
Right.
That's pretty powerful.
And it reminds me of a woman that's waited for a baby, whether biologically or not, right? Like 9 months, 10 months, 15 months, 30 months. You think you're hoping for that baby to enter your arms, right? And then insert sleepless nights, spit up all over you in places you don't even know. Yeah. You walk in the grocery store like, what is that smell? Oh, it's me.
It's me.
Yeah. I mean, but the truth is it wasn't what the end goal actually you thought it was. And it was all about the journey all throughout and what he's continuing to build with your, commitment to being faithful to his provision and his faithfulness constantly. So yeah, it's far beyond what we even think what we're asking for. And that's kind of what I think is like, what are you actually asking to have hope in? So even approaching this Advent season, what do you want? What are you going before God to say, yeah, God, this is my heart this season. And what is God inviting me to say, Kathy, put this down. What do I need to put down so I can pick up?
Make the womb, right? Make the space.
Yes. Yeah.
Any of you guys, anything you had to wait for that was really good?
Just a tag team on what Kathy said. I'm just thinking of Elizabeth and Zechariah and how she waited. She was barren until, 90?
Yeah.
Something like the whole Sarah story. And she was waiting and waiting and hoping and hoping. And just when you said that about, has there ever been such a story? And then she becomes pregnant with John the Baptist,
right?
The angel, and that is the Elijah that was prophesied in the end of Malachi. And it's just this amazing story, and that's what Jesus. I'm just struck by that, Kathy. That's what Jesus opens up the New Testament with.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Elizabeth. Yeah.
That is beautiful.
What about you?
Well, Kathy mentioned it a little bit. I mean, we waited 6 years and went through infertility treatments for 6 years when we were told by doctors that it, very, very slim chance. And when we prayed and fasted, the Lord said to pursue aggressively. And then I had my first at 40, not 90, but close.
Ancient of Days.
Ancient of Days.
Kind of.
That's right.
That's an inside joke for the podcast, just so you know. But Kathy did refer to Leslie
as the Ancient of Days.
So from now on, she'll be affectionately the AOD.
Oh, no. But I mean, waiting for that when doctors said that, the chance of it happening was so slim. And our oldest son is, that God has granted us his promise, and his name is Grant. And so it's just a beautiful reflection of God telling us and giving us assurance and giving us that hope to look forward to something. But there were sleepless nights, and there were times that I still to this day sleep with a pillow next to me, and I hug it because that was representing Jesus, me holding on to Jesus, just to have something to hold on to. I still do that to be able to go to sleep at night. And it had patterned through dark times of month after month after month, not getting pregnant and having to walk through that as a couple, and people coming up to you and saying, when are you kids going to have kids, and what are you guys holding out on, and then having a couple of losses with miscarriages, and people knowing about, like, oh, how's the baby doing? So needing to tell people over and over and over that the baby didn't make it. So it was just really difficult times, but Jesus gave a certain calm in that storm. And that's the same thing with the birth of Christ, is that there was a calm in the storm. I was thinking about the advent of the anticipation of Jesus, the anticipation of a child. And no one ever runs into a room with an infant child, right? Everybody walks in gently and a little smile on your face as you're walking up to a newborn. And that's the anticipation that we should have, is that calm in the storm of taking a breath before you go out of the chaos, taking a breath, going into something that is sacred, that is beautiful. And this is a season to take a breath.
That is good.
And I think that anticipation too is Israel waited under oppression for a very long time. It was really hard. And there were a lot of, we think the Messiah, isn't he going to come now? Isn't he coming now? Isn't the Advent going to happen now? And it didn't, 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 and then it did. And the way you guys share these stories, it just kind of says to me, it's like the faith in the coming of the King is what is getting us through. That is our hope. Our hope isn't that we have the resources to fix this. My personal resources are not enough.
Right.
They're pretty bad.
Right.
They're pretty lame. Right. I can try and muscle my way through, and I can try and man up and all that. And then just like as Gwen was saying, and we had our first, and then crazily enough, we had our second like 14 months later, and nobody thought we could even have a second one. It was just, it was a shock. It was a surprise. It was a beautiful surprise. And now that those guys are in the world, we still need hope for them. They're still my boys. They're still my knuckleheads, right? But they have lives, and they're dealing with their stuff, and they got their problems, and the culture around us, and all of the chaos, and all of the hurt, and all the darkness that we're all navigating all the time. And we're still pointing our hearts in the direction of the coming King. So I think that's one of the beauties that you guys are articulating, is this Advent season once again, it's a rehearsal of hope. That hope is consummated in the coming King. He came before, and he's coming again. And so all of the garbage that we all navigate all the time, all of the sleepless nights, right? Whether it was before they were born or after they were born, right? Anybody testify?
Yep. Oh,
okay.
amen.
The
Yes.
mom's got something to say. Yeah, I mean, that anticipation through the question marks, through the doubts, through the anxiety, through the fears that you have about your kids, about your life, about culture, about politics, about the world around you, we continue to rehearse the hope in the coming King every year, knowing that he's coming again. I wanted to talk just a little bit about hope, defining biblical hope versus secular hope. And it's interesting, and you see if you guys agree with this as a contrast. Like secular hope often means wishful thinking, right? In other words, I hope it snows.
Crossing your fingers.
I'm crossing my fingers. I
Yeah,
hope it works
yeah.
out. Or optimism. I'm positive thinking. I'm going to speak my truth into the universe, right? And it's going to be good. Or probability, right? Likelihood. Well, it's probably going to work out. It's probably going to be okay. And so we're just kind of like, we're kind of gearing up for that thing that might happen to us. Biblical hope is significantly different. It's the expectation of coming good based on God's person and promises. Let me say that one more time. It's the expectation of a coming good based on God's person and promises. I like to think of it like this. My faith is in the character of God revealed in Jesus beyond my capacity to know God's mind. Right? So whatever it is I think I know about God, and whatever it is I think I know about having hope and about the redemption of all of the mess that we're in, I can't get my head around, the great 3-in-1. I can't get my head around omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent. But I can conceptualize Jesus as like the Godhead injected into reality for us so that we can know him and so that we would maybe have some flesh and blood, like that we're placing our hope in. So hope is not merely about the future, right? It's a present reality that fuels our perseverance, right? It's something that for those of us who really had to lean on hope for a good thing, for a hard thing, it's pretty tangible.
Right.
It's pretty, it's like, we're looking to Jesus, right? He is the source of our hope. And as we get into weeks further on here, we're going to talk about peace, and we're going to talk about joy, right? We're going to talk about love.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. I'm giving it away, Kath, just giving it away.
Palms up.
So let me ask you this then, with all of that in mind, right? In an era of instant gratification then, how important is it for us to wait on things that are great? Right? How important it is for us to learn how to wait on a good thing.
I made some notes about that.
All
Been
right.
thinking about that one. Yes. I would argue that we don't even know what great is if we are not waiting on God. And we're disciples of the internet, and we look to the internet to just feed back and mirror back to us who we are and what we need, and we start arranging our lives, and kind of like Cain, we're going to arrange this and give it to God and give it to other people, and if we will miss the beauty and the wonder of God and the God who made it if we do not wait with Emmanuel and God with us. It's God with us, but we need to make space for that, to hear the whisper of God and to sit with him. Or I don't know that we even know what great is. So that's what I hear in that question.
So maybe it's the clutter of the season. It doesn't have to be that way, but maybe part of an appropriate waiting, if we're thinking about Christmas, is the capacity to get still.
Is to get still and to hear Jesus speak over me, and to hear, oh, maybe this is the great thing, and to hear his word, and to see and to do it the way he would do it.
Right.
When he came in the flesh, he looked at people, he took a pause, he held a hand, he expressed sympathy and was with people. And so we miss that in the chronic craziness of the season and the performance bandits. Am I enough? Am I enough? Am I enough?
Right.
Jesus is enough.
The performance bandits.
Yes.
I've never heard that.
I stole that from Ann Voskamp.
Yeah, that's
but isn't
fantastic.
that great? Isn't that great? Yeah.
Golly. So because I think the rush and the clutter, like you said, we're disciples of the internet. So it's one of these things where it used to be back in the day.
Ancient days.
We had encyclopedias and stuff. We had libraries, and you'd have to go down to the library and pull out the encyclopedia and look up the thing. And now I have the entirety of human knowledge at my fingertips instantaneously. I can go to ChatGPT or I can go to Google or something, and I can look up and I can get my answer now. And I don't even know if it's right, but I have something now. There's no anticipation. There's no waiting for the answer. There's no processing,
Instant
really.
comfort. Too.
It's instant comfort. Yeah. So it's like when you say we're discipled by the internet, we're discipled to get what we want when we want it right now.
Right now. Right.
And you got to think that kind of shortchanges our maturity in some way.
Yeah, I know it does. Our souls can't keep up with it, first of all.
Yeah.
And
But I think Advent brings wonder. It's like you get, I was talking to people yesterday at church, and they were talking about that some people are already putting up their tree the day after Halloween. But I think the anticipation, I mean, they're waiting for Bethlehem's glow. They're in a place of wonder. They're in a place of desiring to have hope in the chaos, desiring to have truth in the, maybe it's not true, off the internet. But they're hungry for It's a Wonderful Life. They're hungry for putting up their tree early because there's a certain ambiance that it puts in the household of somehow there's a little bit of sparkle in our chaos, and it makes them take a breath. Now, what people do is they take it to the extreme. They look on Pinterest, and if they don't have 7 trees up in their house
Right.
enough, it's not
decorated,
enough.
Right.
And they have, a storage unit full of just Christmas stuff, and they have people come in and decorate their house, and they go into debt with Christmas, and that causes so much more. But I think their underlining hope is they want him. They want that wonder of him,
Right.
the anticipation of Bethlehem's glow.
Yeah.
Love that.
That's a beautiful thought. And the anticipation of even if the season isn't about Christ, right? For people who are not believers, there's still, like you just articulated, there's a hunger.
Yes.
There's a hunger for some kind of transcendent hope, and it gets couched in nostalgia, or in sentimentality, or in modern Christmas myths. We all love Elf, right? I mean, and I'm not bagging on Elf. I'm just saying that's the way the season has gotten sort of, maybe, I don't know if distorted is the right word. It gets detoured towards good things, acceptable things, but maybe at the cost of the best thing. Because we are so hungry for something that's good and beautiful and true and transcendent.
Right.
And Christmas almost kind of gives you like an echo of that
Right.
into the lives of people. And then as Christ followers, we're like, it's not an echo, man. It's an amplifier. It's pointed right at us. It is injected into our lives. We are anticipating the Creator showing up.
Right.
And so we live with that rehearsal, not only of him showing up for the first Advent, but for the second Advent, for
Right.
his ultimate return, right? Where we live in the middle place
Right.
between the two Advents. We live in that tension. I did a message a while ago, and it was kind of like in World War II, forgive me, all history nerds might appreciate this, but in World War II, historians will say that it was largely won on D-Day when the Allies invaded Normandy and defeated the Germans there. When the Germans were defeated on D-Day, it was pretty much the beginning of the end, right? It was pretty much just like, it was just a matter of time, about a year before VE Day, when the Allies marched into Berlin and the Germany surrendered, right? So for us, we're kind of living in that in-between time, right? We know at the birth of the Savior and at his victory at the cross, the battle's effectively done. But you and I still have to live in the in-between time before the fully consummated victory of what was bought for us. And so we live in this perpetual sense of Advent,
Right.
going forward into our lives. And that's one of the reasons why I think it would be really helpful for us, even as good evangelical Christ followers who don't typically observe the liturgical year, unless you're out there and you do, which is fantastic, is we see our lives tethered to the life of Jesus, even chronologically. Because a lot of us, we measure time by the academic calendar, right? We measure time by sort of the annual, January 1st, and that's how we measure time by maybe our favorite sports season, right? And so like, I used, for instance, like, I can't wait for football season to start. It's just like, oh my gosh, it's like the beginning. And I'm not bagging on football. What I'm just saying is, I think there's something very healthy about us looking to, as the church has done for 2,000 years, the actual life of Jesus as the guide for our lives. We're tethered to his life chronologically, beginning at Advent and going all the way through Easter and Pentecost and the whole liturgical year. There's something really beautiful and, in my opinion, healthy about us starting to reorient even the way we think about time in his direction. So anyways, we kind of start to maybe wrap a little bit of this up here. I have this, Eugene Peterson says something really beautiful here in one of his books. He said, hope is not about the future. Hope is about the present. It obviously has to do with the future, but it is a virtue that is cultivated in the present. It fills the present with energy. It connects the two comings of Jesus so that we now participate in both of them. That is a powerful thought, right?
Right.
So as we go into Christmas, sort of as our parting thoughts here, as we kind of start to wrap this up, what would be, let's start with you, Les.
Oh, gee.
Yeah, no pressure, right?
Okay, no pressure.
You got to tee it up for everybody
Okay,
else.
all right.
But what would your advice be to, say, a family, or singles, or anybody who's headed into this Advent season who hasn't necessarily embraced it maybe in the way we're talking about it, what would your advice be to them?
Believers? You're saying believers?
Yeah,
Or-
either. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here, I have a thought. I'll interrupt
Yes.
you.
Go ahead. Interrupt it. Yeah. Go ahead. Mhm.
Okay, I'll let
Yeah.
you think for a second.
Yeah. Let me think.
Because I thought of a
there's so many,
question,
like-
right,
yes.
as Troy and Gwen were talking. I think that so many of us listening to this podcast could say, that's great and all,
Yes.
but we just went through a divorce and I had to figure out how to work and buy my kids presents, or we're trying to get pregnant and buy a house, or I've heard this all before. And so I would just ask anybody this season, just ask yourself, like, has it worked for you? Have you gotten to the 25th and been in such a rejoice-filled state and thankful for whatever God is going to do through Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit the next 365 days again? And if not, ask, what picture of God am I bringing into this Advent season? Am I at the end of my 400 years and I'm like, you have been gone, abandoned me, ruthless, unloving?
So good.
Or am I anticipating that you're here and you're about to do something again and again and again and again?
That's good.
That's a really good message, Kathy. And I would just add on that is I love the idea of marking every day, starting at the beginning of Advent in some way, or whether it's reading a prophecy or something along those lines. But little small things that we can do for each other. Jesus, Emmanuel, God with us. Whether it is lighting a candle and taking it to a neighbor that you don't really know and just looking at them in the eye and saying, thinking about you. Whether it's bending over and to all the people, there's so many people in retail, looking them in the eye and just saying, hey, how long is your shift? And just thinking about you and letting people know that God is always happy to be with us.
Yes.
He is with us. God, most of us don't know.
Yeah.
Even in the church, God is happy to be with us.
Right.
And if we are extending that, just little small things, just like Jesus when he came in the flesh did, we then maybe earn the right to put words to that, as you are saying, and saying, let me tell you more about who Emmanuel is.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the small. And I would encourage anyone, 1 minute a day, a breath of Jesus, move the obstacles out just like you did making the way with John the Baptist, a breath of prayer like, Jesus, what are you doing here? What are you looking for? It can be just a breath.
Yeah.
You know, the small things.
Yeah. And I think your point is well taken, to make space,
Right.
right? Because the culture is imposing on us constantly. It's constant pressure to meet the expectations of other people,
Right.
perhaps. Maybe it's our own expectations that might be a little unrealistic because we feel it's the fear of missing out, or we feel inadequate or something. But to let maybe this Advent season, like you just said, it's a time to breathe instead of to suffocate.
Right. Calm in the chaos.
Yeah, yeah. So, honey, what would your parting advice be to someone who wants to make an adjustment, right, for themselves and their family this Advent?
Yeah, I love the idea of lighting a candle and having a time of, be it that it's a minute of thinking of what it was like to be a different character in the birth of Christ, whether you're a shepherd boy or whether you're a king or whether you're the kid who has to come and clean out the stall, or you're the person who, owned the barn, who the person, you're Joseph, if you're Mary. If you put yourself in that place each day, taking a new character, where was I in the birth of Christ? And living it in a fresh way with your imagination through Scripture, I think would be a beautiful thing of anticipation in the chaos, to take a calm and just take a minute a day, like you said, Leslie, a minute a day to reflect on him and reflect on what would it be like, what would it smell like, what were they cooking, at the time, what did frankincense and myrrh, and even get essential oils of, like you said, frankincense and myrrh. What does that smell like? And have your kids join you and make it more alive because it was. And it still is. It's Emmanuel, God with us. He's with us. It's that withness that you talk about, Leslie.
It's like consecration. Yeah, what you do.
Well, here's what I would say to those of you out there. We are fundamentally hopeful creatures. Human beings need hope. We need to believe that tomorrow can be better than today. And Jesus showed up in his first advent as a beacon of hope in the anticipation of the healing of all things. And as we live in this middle place between the first and the coming advent, my encouragement would be to consciously, daily, divert your hope away from the chaos, away from your own resources, away from your own strength, and actively place them on him. And ask him to help. Ask him to show up. Ask him to give you a better vision of what it could or should be. And ask him for peace. Ask him for hope. Ask him for joy. Ask him that you would, and I would both orient our hearts this season in a way that isn't just hopeful for us, but as Leslie was saying, is we are bringers of hope to other people who so desperately are suffocating in all the distractions. So ladies, it's been a real privilege to do this with you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time. Thanks for your heart. Thanks for your wisdom. And
Thank you, Troy.
this is our first season
Yay!
of a Conversations podcast. So we want to invite you guys back to our next episode here. We're going to continue talking about Advent here and pray that it's a blessing, it's an encouragement, and a challenge to all of you out there. Let's talk about things that matter. God bless you.